Hey, good evening, everybody. Corey Rennie, your unemployable counselor. I shoveled all day edition. No, I hope everyone's keeping warm out there. There's a lot of snow fell last night, so I hope everyone's careful, and I hope if you're of a certain age like myself, your back is still as spry as it ever was. But when I was out there shoveling, I was thinking about a topic that I've been thinking about for a while, and I was kind of last night I was even up late. I couldn't get it out of my head last night. It's something interesting. Basically, it's why do people lie? Why do people lie in the workplace? Because I'm not talking about with your spouse or your partner or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, because there's always those kind of things. Or it's like, hey, sir, would you like to donate to this? I'm like, oh, I already did, right? Those kind of things. I'm not talking about that. And if you know what, you should donate to some stuff. Come on. I'm thinking about those sorts of factors now. I'm thinking about why do people lie in the workplace? Why? Because you think about it this way too. Look, if you're hired to do a job and you're brought in to do a job and you're not honest about the job or you're not honest about the things in it, believe it or not, that impacts you in the larger scheme of things. Because not everything like that is an isolated incident. Right? It doesn't just happen at one place and it's never mentioned again. Those kind of things can follow a person around. Just like the one who's been lied about, but the people that are doing the lying, that follows them around too. They might not think it is, right? It's usually cloaked in some sort of righteousness or, greater good scenario, but there's no greater good because I find when people lie in the workplace, it falls into, we'll say 3 different categories just to keep this video under 2 days, right? I look this way. Number 1 for me would be self-preservation, right? People are scared. Something happens in the workplace. Let's say there's a negative event. There you go. Or there's some sort of incident that a critical incident occurs, and you think that it's something you could get in trouble for. And if you're thinking that, then it's probably because it's something you could get in trouble for, right? There's that, oh my gosh, I didn't know something, but if you did something that was against what the direction was, I find that's when people really tend to lie, because then it gets to be about saving their own skin as opposed to just being honest about it. We can learn from it, we can move on, and then we can take the steps to make sure those things don't happen again. I'm not talking about the lying, I'm talking about the event, okay? Those are learning opportunities, teachable moments. I had an old prof call it in school, right? So if you have a teachable moment that occurs and you lie about it, let's say not only do you lie about it, but you feel the need to claim your innocence, you really go on the defensive, right? Whether it's, verbally or you type something up that explains your point. If you do something like that, give it to the manager, whoever's in charge directly, explaining your side of it. I'm okay with that because, okay, you took the time, you wanted to explain the decision-making process, fine. But when it's not that, and it's just about why, well, that's my buzzer. That's my dryer. If you go through it all and you have this and you do this documentation and all it says in there that why it's not your fault, as opposed to explaining how the situations or even the rationale behind it came to be, and it just reads like deflection, and it just reads like I'm a good worker or whatever the case may be. It's not, if you make a mistake, it's not a judgment on your character. We all make mistakes. It's just the way it is. It's when people lie about it, starts to show the defects in that character, I find. And that's where if you're in a work environment and you have people that are willing to do that, it can change your opinion of them and also the trust level, and if you want them in certain positions. And by positions, I mean, do you want them do you want them handling money? Do you want them looking after vulnerable populations? Do you want them, are they basically their trust index just dropped off the map because they're lying to you over something that isn't a big deal, but by them lying about it makes it a big deal. But they're so, I think, scared and fearful. And it goes back to even codependency, and I talked about change, right? You get in these situations where people are all of a sudden, oh no, it's because of this. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, if you're not willing to even look at the fact that if you did something wrong or not, I look at it this way. You clearly knew something was amiss because you took the steps to either, go to the staff about it, the other coworkers, right? Even like write a letter or whatever. You're doing everything you can to defend your position without explaining how that position came to be. And everything would be pointed at somebody else in that. So, right, it's basically an absolution of guilt for you, from you, saying, you know what I mean, about why you shouldn't be in trouble. Those sorts of things, right? And as someone, if you're in a position of authority and you're overlooking something like that, that's a red flag. Especially if you're approached by it and you deny it and you stick with it. Because if you know what transpired, whether it's from other people saying it or I don't know, footage or whatever, right? Reports. That doesn't look well for you. And it often leads with people either, like I said, losing trust, and then it's hard to reclaim that after you lost it. Or else they, out of self-protection, they might say, screw this, I quit, right? And then it can lead into ultimatums. And most managers worth their salt don't do ultimatums. Just don't. So that sets a bad precedence, especially when it's stuff like this. We're not going to reward, in my mind, and I want to point out, this is my opinion. This is a hypothetical. But we've all been in situations where we worked with individuals where something's happened and they've lied about it like that, and it's clear they're lying about that. And because you won't believe that they're lying, you won't believe what they're telling you, they panic, and it gets worse and worse and worse because they know that the deal's up, right? It's what they're selling, you ain't buying. And that's where things get rough, because then that's where resentment. It's not about the decisions made, it's about you not believing them. And because of that, it makes them look bad, so they want to take some shots and make you pay. That's a real thing, right? These are hypothetical scenarios, but those things happen in the workplace. And I'm sure anyone listening to this has probably seen something where that's happened. Okay? So we got self-preservation, right? The art of deflection, as I like to call it, okay? Maybe we'll do more of a deep dive in that one, because I find that fascinating, how people will act tough and act all, we're going to do this until things get real. And then they want to all run and put their head in the ground and blame someone else for their own misactions or their own inability to tell the truth. Regardless, there's a certain amount of righteousness that comes with that, codependency, right? Change, fear, all that kind of stuff. Everything that we've been talking about on these little 15-minute videos all tie into a larger framework, okay? So we got self-preservation, art of deflection. So then number 2 would be, I think, ambition, okay? Maybe the person has something you want. Could be a better position, an office, parking space, extra pie at lunch, right? Usually people in those positions don't feel like they're appreciated, and they feel they can do it better than you. Or there might be even more than one, right? That's a bad one too, where, all of a sudden things are going a certain way, and then it's like, I think you could do that better than him, right? That's how it starts. When you're in management, you got to expect to take some shots. You do. Even Mike Tyson's taken some off the chin in his life. When it's not fake. But, right, and management no different. Management is no different. Because everybody wants that job. There's a reason why you're not in scope when you're in management, if your workplace is set up that way, right? Maybe you have a union. They have a union. Management doesn't. Management should have an organizational body like a labor relations department or someone that they can rely on. But oftentimes, depending how it's set up, they're not going to back you either. And I think that's something that can go into more about how to properly run a business, in my opinion. Because, I mean, you have to have certain protections in place, right? You go to get on a plane, there's certain protections and steps you have to take to get there. When things like that happen, the manager can't be left out on his own or her own. There has to be a balance there, right? The employees have a lot of power, and with unions they definitely do, but management a lot of times is just left with no support. And again, it goes into I didn't know that. Oh, you know what I mean? And then it goes back into self-preservation because nobody wants to get the hammer dropped. And then when things get serious, that's when the finger pointing starts. But ambition, in this case, is when people want your job, man. They might even tell you to your face that they could do it better than you. Or they might just sit in the dark and talk about, they're terrible. Oh, they're awful. Oh, she's terrible. She's a horrible manager, right? You start building that amongst the base. And again, it goes to self-preservation because when that stuff comes out, the people leading the charge won't be leading it anymore. They're going to fade into the background. Like Homer Simpson into that hedge. They're going to fade into the background and let the poor sheep take the blame for that. And that's the ones that'll get the brunt because they're the ones that are going to do the legwork. And it's like that at any work environment, I think. There's always those individuals that figure they're the puppet master. They're going to play things from the back or, oh, don't worry, I got it wrapped around my finger or whatever the case may be. That's dangerous thinking because that's our ego and that's our hubris, right? And if that goes unchecked, problems happen, and especially if you're the manager. So this girl's a manager. All of a sudden, right, things come up that they're not aware of. And when you ask the people that are supposed to be supporting you, and they're vague or, oh, yeah, no, I didn't know that. Or issues are coming through that you need to address, but if they're getting blocked somewhere else on the pipeline, you're not going to get that. So when it comes to fruition, you're going to be like, wait, okay, I wasn't aware of this. Well, yeah, no, we put all this through. And a telltale sign is over time, you can see it build where there's a story, whatever, you guys talk, there's this, but then maybe the next few times you talk, from that perspective, that story's starting to change a little bit. All of a sudden, it was, no, remember when no, it was, yeah, no, I did this, and it's, no, remember when you asked me to do this? No, I didn't ask you to do this, right? Things like that. Little shifts, and it goes back to self-preservation, where if they're doing something they're not supposed to do, but that they report up, they're going to put everything on that stream upwards, right? Because that's just the way that they want to play it, because they want to keep that. They want to keep their job. Like, no one wants to get in trouble. No one wants to do that kind of stuff. And I'm not begrudging it here. And again, like I said, these are hypotheticals. These are scenarios that I think could be common in the workplace, and that's why I'm discussing it. But I think, too, usually there's a motivation behind it. There's something driving that ambition. If you're not going to get that ambition, if you have an ambition to succeed, that's great. You should do that. But a lot of times, depending where you work, there's not many opportunities other than just what's in front of you. So people will work for the good of the center, or work for the good of the restaurant, or work for the good of the facility, wherever you work, car dealership, wherever you work. But they're going to make sure that when something happens, you're going to be painted in the most negative light possible, and they're not, even if they're the ones doing that. And a lot of times that'll come with not giving all the information, right? Maybe taking it upon yourself to maybe try to claim authority that you don't have yet. I think that happens a lot too, where it's our ego and it's our hubris that comes up to it that, well, no, it's like, right? Well, no, I'm just this, right? But you're pushing the boulder down the hill. It's like, oh, I don't know how that boulder crushed all those villagers. Well, yeah, you pushed it down, you know what I mean? And, I don't know. It's like, right, that kind of stuff. And I mean, and I consider, like, look, everyone's had a job where they think, oh, I got screwed over, or this, right? But I like this way too. There is a certain amount of honor that can be produced, because that's how relationships build. If you work with people that are upfront and honest with you, and you can work with them, that's one thing. But it's when stuff happens and, it's not reported, or, it's reported around you, right? Like, there's all these sorts of things. Now, I'm not saying that management doesn't do anything wrong, because management does do things wrong. They do things wrong all the time, I'm sure. But depending on the work environment, you can only do with what you have ahead of you. And if not everyone understands how that works, then you're going to have these kind of problems, because everyone's going to think that they can do it better than you. The ambition piece, right? So, I mean, self-preservation, the art of deflection, right? That's all it is. Oh, no. And the same with ambition. You're hiding in plain sight with ambition. Self-preservation, you're just hiding. Okay? You're just hiding because, no. You're just hiding, right? But the ambition piece is you want something, so you're going to be actively in the fray, but you're going to try to hide in plain sight. Okay, and that leads us to what I think is the third one, and potentially final one, I think, but it's always evolving. Some people just want to watch the world burn, right? Some people just hold a grudge. They get resentments. They don't like something, so they decide, you know what? I'm going to make it my mission to make sure everyone knows what a joke this place is, or what a clown this guy is, or girl, whatever the case may be, right? And that's the worst kind, because there's no real rhyme or reason. It's done just to take someone down because you don't like what they're doing. Now, think about it that way. If management did that to employees, now I'm looking at it through this lens, so bear with me, right? In some circumstances, those are things that can go through your union, go through your legal. And like I said earlier, if you're set up in a place that you should have protections or people to rely on, and you find out that you don't, or that they're non-existent, or they're pulling the, I didn't know any of this stuff, right? Then you're kind of hooped. Because if you're by yourself, you're really by yourself there. You're on an island and you're not getting off of it. Because you're on that island for a reason. That means, things like, gathering around. And I'm talking about, staff, or if you're in management, other managers, those sorts of things where it's like, this guy's terrible. Why? Because something's happening that you don't approve of? Is there a change coming down that you don't like? Is there an opinion about something, about the way it works, that maybe you're not happy with? So it has to be, no. He's wrong or she's wrong. They have to go. They can't do this. This is horrible. And then instead of looking on solutions, you're focusing on, we got to get this guy out. That's what it is. And I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen these scenarios, in different ways all through the years. And I mean, it's not tailored to any one specific thing. This is about us inside. There's some people that if they can't get things the right way, they'll try to do it. They're going to try to get their needs met any way they can. And that's one of them, is the duplicitous nature of it all. I said before in a video, as I'm sure everybody's watched them all, management is a lonely, solitary profession. And in some places, you're literally Robinson Crusoe on the island. Okay? You need to look at those factors. And again, if you have a heavy hand and you have to turn from, okay, we got to turn up the heat a little bit because things aren't working like they should, and then you can't, you've already lost them. Because they're already planning on, they don't like what you're doing anyway. So it doesn't matter what decision's made, they're going to be against it. I've worked with people who have fought for one thing, and then when they got it, fought against it. And this is what I'm talking about here. I'm like, that is like the most asinine thing ever. You wanted this change, so we did it. And now you're fighting that we shouldn't have to do it. What's the motivation there other than just to cause shit? That's my view. And some of those examples have really stuck with me because I'm like, okay, you say you're doing this for this, but this is the outcome. This is what we're all facing. None of it is happening. None of it is real. None of it makes anyone feel good. Hey. And, well, that's what we call technical difficulties. Right, so we're doing this stuff. We're, like I said, you're fighting for something. You get it, then you fight against it because it's now policy or it's the law, however you want to phrase it. That makes no sense. What is that for? Like why? All that time and effort for what? Because some people need to feel important, I think. And some people that, and I'll be honest with you, I think there's some people that can't do the job. No, they can't do the job. So they're going to make sure that people think you can't do the job too. It's about them. All of this is about their needs inside, right? If you're scared that you're going to lose your job, you're going to lie to protect it. If you want another job, you're going to do whatever you can to get it because you think you deserve it, right? So if you're not following a procedure or what's laid out and it goes south, things like, like I think I said in another video or even earlier in this one, you start ally building. Maybe it's a document. Maybe it's something you put out saying, look, I'm this. I'm the best worker. I don't make mistakes. Blah blah blah. Whatever the heck it is, and whatever it is you're doing. To me, that just shows a lack of self-awareness, a lack of, you're not taking any responsibility for your own actions. Because some things you can just look at it, okay, look, the wrong decision was made here. This is what it was. We can talk about how we got that. Explain to me how you got to this position. And then we can learn from it and move on. That's the way I look at it. That's honestly my management philosophy is like, look, man, everything's a teachable moment. Not a prof say that 20 years ago, right? Everything's a teachable moment like that. And you can learn from it, and that's what makes the team better. It makes them better, and as a manager, it makes things better for you. Because you're going to give people an opportunity, and they know a little bit about who you are. But it's when they buckle in, and they're like, no way, man, this is because, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If it's validity to it, okay. But if it looks like it's just someone hiding behind a shield or a bulletproof vest, then it's not going to go the way you think. And that's when your ego and your righteousness, like a lot of this stuff is about us, right? It's our own hubris. It's our own ego. It's the way we view situations. So, we can think we're screwed over, but then take the proper steps. Don't lie about it. When you lie about it, it makes it worse. Because it's like, if you have kids, anyone has kids out there, it's like, look, I'm going to ask you something. If you lie to me, it's going to be worse. If you tell me the truth, it's not going to be as bad, right? That's just the way it is. And if they lie about it, then okay. All right. But if I find the truth, I'm going to be that much more upset that I had to dig and pull a Columbo to try to get to the truth here. That's going to upset me. That's going to make the situation a lot worse for you than if you just come and say, you know what, I did this. This is how I handled it. And it's like, okay, well, that's not how it should have went. It should have went like this. Then we can talk about it. We learn from it. And if it keeps happening again, then we can look at something like, okay, man, what's going on here? But a lot of this is just a learning curve that we got to be aware of. But a lot of people are so scared, just scared, right? Or they want your job. That happens too, especially with management. Like I said, there's not a lot of friends when you're a manager because of that. Everyone wants to take a shot at the king or queen. Everybody wants to jump up and down and be like, oh, look what this guy did or this girl did. Even though what you're doing is the issue. But again, it's the art of deflection. So, I know, hey, kind of interesting, hey? Well, anyways, I'm not going to go on too long here, but I do think self-preservation, ambition, and just to cause trouble, or just, even that, like I said, it all boils down to their view of it and their place in it, and they're doing something to get their needs met because they want something out of this, right? You want to be something more than you are, perhaps, and you can't get to that level. So you're going to make sure that everyone knows that the people in that role can't do it either. They're no better than me, is what I look at it as. And that's true. Like I said, if you fight for something and you get it, and then you fight against it because you don't want to do it, what the hell is that? That's just meant to cause issues in your workplace. You're not fighting for any common good, or you're not fighting for a better tomorrow. You're just fighting you're just fighting the fight. And you got to ask yourself why. Oh, it's because management's horrible, blah, blah, blah. Maybe. But doing it that way isn't making the problem go away. It's contributing to it. And it's making it worse. And it's making a toxic work environment. Right? And that's what I mean. And it's like when you're in management, you can't be friends with your employees. That's a hard lesson to learn. I learned that too. And I mean, and there's situations too, like, like working with family. I've worked with family in the past and it hasn't worked out, and there's a reason for that, right? It's like dating, right? There's things you have to do, unfortunately, that line up with your job, and it comes to ethics, and it comes to morality, and it comes to what you can do. If you're doing something that's inappropriate, then okay. But if you're not, and people are just trying to make it so you get fired, then there's no honor in that. That's one of the most cowardly things you can do. It's not address people through your conflict resolution steps unless there's an active danger for you. But if you're not willing to say, look, man, I don't appreciate this, or hey, explain this change to me, or I don't get what happened here. Instead, it turns into ultimatums, maybe, or just a smear campaign, because people are hurt and they got resentments, and someone has to pay, and it most certainly is not going to be them, because they're the wounded party, right? It's called victimization. There's a lot of folks that like to live with that because it feeds those needs. And check out my quick video on codependency. I touch a little bit about that. But anyways, listen, it's 26 minutes. I don't know if these are getting easier for me and I enjoy them more, or if I just like to talk too much. I don't know. If you hung around this long, I just want to say thank you. And if you're shoveling, be careful, watch your back, and go make a snow angel. Play with your kids, right? Take your dog out for a walk. Come by my place, shovel my driveway. Be pretty good. But I just want to say I'm Corey Rennie, I'm a public counselor. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out here, and I appreciate it. And yeah, take care, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye.